members of the board, I should say, Mr. Committee Secretary, are there any regrets today?
No regrets, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Members of the board, are there any disclosures of conflict of interest to declare today? Not seeing any, we will move on. I wanted to say thank you, everybody, for cooperating with the yet another Zoom meeting. I know Zoom is becoming the unpopular four-letter word of the post-pandemic era, but it was a useful tool today in light of certainly in my neighborhood, what are largely impassable streets. So it was a great opportunity to not have to cancel or have a sparsely attended meeting. So thank you, everybody, for being willing to participate virtually. And I look forward to having a great meeting with all of you today. So first on the agenda is our minutes. And I have one announcement. We are withdrawing item, help me, Mr. I'm sorry, I have it already. 4.10, the new board show on your TV. We are withdrawing that item from the agenda today, so we will not be discussing that item today. It may or may not come back at a future board meeting, but I just want to draw everybody's attention to that early. Members of the board, I want to draw your attention to the minutes that were circulated for our public meeting on Thursday, January 26, 2023. Are there any comments, questions, errors, or omissions to report on those minutes?
I would so move them, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Somerville, seconded by Lisa Kearns. All in favor? Those minutes are approved. Thank you. We do have a highly anticipated presentation as the first matter of business today. That's item 2.1. That is the presentation on internal support networks and EDI. And I believe who's going to frame this for us? Is this a Deputy Hill framing, or Chief? Are you going to frame this for us?
I mean, I will kick it off, Mr. Chair, and then if the deputy wants to say anything else. It's great to see Inspector Anita Laframboise here. She's going to head this sort of up from a presentation perspective, and we have a variety I see on the screen here of our fabulous ISN members and leaders, and ISNs have become so important, I think, in the policing world. I'm extremely proud of the ones that we have here, and what they represent and what they stand for, and our ability to always work together. So I'm extremely proud of this group, and I'm glad that so many are able to join us here today.
Thanks, Chief. Deputy Hill?
I believe with Inspector Laframboise and Ryan Smith here, there's no way I can say anything better than them. So let's let them do it.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm actually going to defer to Ryan Smith. I'm a proud member of one of our ISNs, but Ryan has been involved in the inception of all of them from the beginning. So I wanted to give the floor to him because he really has the history on how these all came about. So over to you, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks, Inspector. And thanks for everybody for giving us the opportunity to come in and talk about our internal support network program. As the inspector said, I think I know everybody on the call, but for those that don't, I'm the sergeant that oversees our Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office here within the police service. And one of the many programs that fall under our area of responsibility is the internal support network program. And we're pleased today to have some of our chairs and co-chairs of each of those internal support networks here, just to speak about some of the incredible work that they've done in the past, as well as some great opportunities that they have planned in the future. So if I'm able to, I'm going to share my screen. I think I can. Is everybody able to, is that working on everybody's end? Okay, great. So, it's no surprise that within the last few years and really historically, our service has placed a high emphasis on, promoting diversity, awareness, and inclusivity amongst our members. And the internal support networks are designed to provide members from identified groups, and as well as allies, the opportunity to meet and discuss issues that are affecting them, but also really drive a lot of the programming and initiatives that we roll out from our EDI office here. So they work very closely with myself and members of our team here within the EDI office, as well as other kind of critical areas within the police service to not only drive positive change, but again, help develop programs and initiatives, relying on those important lived experiences that may otherwise be missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak to the 4 internal support networks that we have. The first one was created back in 2017, and that would be the LGBTQ plus internal support network. And since that time, through those years, we've developed 4 others. So within the service, we have 4 internal support networks. Again, the LGBTQ plus, South Asian internal support network, the Black internal support network, and the Women's internal support network. And these groups, individually and collectively, again, drive a lot of the programming out of our office, but really allow us to identify areas where we can change the culture through training opportunities for our members or outreach and education opportunities for the community. So I'm going to pass it off to Aaron Cormier, who I believe is on the call. I can't see the full screen now, just to speak a little bit about the LGBTQ plus internal support network.
Thank you, Ryan, and good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for including us, including me specifically. I'm speaking on behalf of our fabulous co-chairs, Aaron and Aaron Toth. They couldn't be here today, so I think they defaulted to me because I was the next Aaron. But I am proud to say that I am a member of the LGBTQ plus ISN. Both Aaron and Aaron founded this. They work very hard, extremely committed and passionate, as all our members, and they absolutely would have been here today if they could have been. So thank you for listening to me instead. As far as what we've been up to in 2022, we were busy with their level recruit training, so our level 1, 2, and 3, but specifically the level 3, just creating a more robust experience for our new officers to get started, to be aware of some of the main issues, as well as to introduce the ISNs to them. We are involved in the peace program, so helping our youth. Pride celebrations were fantastic in June, and thank you for those that attended. We were excited to celebrate the mural that was painted at our entrance to HQ. Hopefully many of you have passed over it. I know I do every day, and it makes me happy to see it. And then fundraising through our name tags. I'm not wearing mine, I apologize, but we do have officers have the ability and civilians to take part in a fundraising campaign to show the pride colors on our name tags. And that money is donated to a charity or a organization within our space that can benefit people directly, and that was through ROC last year. As far as looking into 2023, we're hoping to continue the momentum and looking at training to elaborate and enhance some of the training that's already done, whether that's through level training, as well as our team training. So our team members through our EDI unit that are across all the districts, we're bringing them in actually and focusing on LGBTQ plus 2S issues this training. So that will be a full day training that we're looking to incorporate, and we're working closely with them, with EDI, sorry, I say them, EDI to coordinate those efforts and serving with pride, and some keynote speakers to be able to offer, again, a really robust program for our members. We're also fortunate to be able to look at doing the murals that you see here at HQ. We'd like to have those at all the districts. So big shout out to facilities for putting that together for us. And lastly, the Aarons, including myself, wanted to really thank our senior leadership team as well as the board, because there is a tremendous amount of support and encouragement felt by our ISN. So we wanted to thank you for that very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. And it's it's important to highlight that the work of each of these internal support networks without question impacts the broader membership. And an example of that is some of the work that I've done with them through our gender neutral washroom facilities that we have in each of our stations now, as well as, the development of a trans inclusive policy within our organization, where we're actually able to put that into practice and support a member who was transitioning while on duty with the police service. So the work of these internal support networks no doubt has an impact today, but the legacy pieces in the future, we're better positioned to support all of our members. So DJ, I'll flip it over to DJ to speak about the Black Internal Support Network and some of the work that they're doing.
Thank you, Ryan. Happy to be here to talk about the Black Internal Support Network. It was established in January of 2020. As of right now, we're sitting at 21 members, and that includes sworn civilians and allies. And our model is very similar to our service model: one vision, one mission, one team. And that is strength and unity, and that more can be accomplished by a common goal rather than individuals. And our mission is to promote awareness and education of the issues that are impacting communities and racialized members of the police service and allies. And some of the initiatives that we've been doing this year, one that's in the works right now, is developing a EDI speaker series with the focus on leadership, motivation, and issues impacting the police. And the person who's going to be speaking about that is going to be coming from a community that often faces challenges and having to navigate through societal barriers and avoiding that path of negativity and still making it out of those circumstances to get to where they are today. So that's kind of going to be like a good motivational, inspiring event. And onboarding and mentoring of new hires. I myself was a part of this when I first got hired on. I've been on it just a little bit over a year, but just the fact that I was able to be in a room with, a whole bunch of officers who look like me and are in the same space as me, it's inspiring, it's motivating. It's letting me know that I can reach those positions as well. And as some of you are aware, for this Black History Month, things that we've been doing on the Halton social media, we have our internal support network speaking on the importance of Black history and what it means to them. Again, that's to bring awareness to the Black community and also just shine some light on the positive things as well. Another thing that we've been doing is an internal thing that we've been doing is the Black History Trivia. And each week a new trivia question goes on relating to Black history, relating to the Halton region. And members have a chance to submit their answers with fun prizes being included and things like that. So those are the initiatives that we have for 2023. Also speaking at different events outside of Halton, whether it's going to speak at an old college or going to speak at an old community event, speaking on panels, just really bringing awareness and attention to Black issues that we face, and also some of the positive things that are often not really shined in that light. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, DJ. And just as a quick top up on the Black Internal Support Network, I know we all remember and still have some challenges facing the policing sector, mid 2022 and beyond. And this group of officers and civilian members were instrumental in helping guide our approach to that and start building some of those relationships, which has paid off greatly since that time. And I lack that lived experience of some of the members within these internal support networks, and they're able to guide my decision making and let me see new perspectives that help kind of, again, lead to more positive outcomes out of our office. So it's been a huge help to me personally, professionally, and the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Office as a whole. So Harj, I think you're on. I'll pass it over to you to speak about the South Asian Internal Support Network.
Good morning. Thanks, Sergeant Smith. The South Asian Support Network was established in July 2020. As of December 2022, we had 15 members, sworn civilian allies. The number is increasing this year. Some of the initiatives we did, we always start off with a food drive to honor Ramadan. Last year, we were able to donate 450 pounds of food to the 4 different food banks at Halton. Another thing we like to do is we actually provide a pamphlet of what Ramadan is. So when we donate the food, we ask the food banks to give it off to everyone who takes a donation, so they actually learn in the different towns what exactly Ramadan is and why we celebrate it. From there, we did 2 recruiting drives at Desi Mandi. We did level 1 and 2 recruiting presentation. We did a Kramer Cruiser food drive to honor Diwali. We had 1,700 pounds of food donated to the same 4 food banks. Again, we provided a pamphlet just talking about what Diwali is, and a little education about what Diwali is and how it started. As everyone knows, May is South Asian Heritage Month, so we started with some small videos and some of the fun facts, and we finished off with the South Asian Heritage Festival, which is a big success. And then in November, we had the Sikh Remembrance Day ceremony for Private Bukam Singh in Kitchener. Some of our members attended that. Initiatives for this year, we have group meditation. We're hosting the 2nd annual Heritage Festival. We're also going to expand on the Heritage Month. Our Diwali food drive, and maintaining training and education updates for the service.
Awesome. Thanks, Harj. I appreciate that. I'm going to pass it back to Erin. She's doing double duty today, and she's going to speak about the work of our Women's Internal Support Network, which I believe the board has had a presentation on previously, I think, but Erin will touch on some of the plans for 2023.
Thank you, Ryan. And again, thank you to the board. I've had the privilege of working with some of you closely through my work on the Women's Internal Support Network. And you've been instrumental in pushing a lot of our agendas forward, which I'll speak to in a minute. But thank you again. We were established appropriately, I think, on International Women's Day back in 2021. We have a growing amount of sworn and civilian members currently. I think it's actually probably surpassed that 160 since we did this created this presentation, as we keep getting new members, which is fantastic. As of right now, we are not open to allies, but that is something that we are actively exploring and looking at how we can effectively incorporate that, because that is something that we absolutely recognize and want to enhance with our program. So in 2022, some of our initiatives, we're super proud. So if I get emotional, it's just because I'm very proud of the work we did, but established a committee to rewrite the HRPS workplace harassment policy. That was very impactful for all members, but particularly for us in the Women's Internal Support Network to have a piece of that. And that was as a result of the 2021 symposium we held, which is thankfully an annual one, thanks to, again, your support through the board and our senior leadership team. So through that work, we were able to be a really big part of the change in that policy, which is amazing to say that our members did that. Again, I repeat, we held our annual women's symposium. So 2022 was our second one, a huge success. The photo in the presentation is a result of that. Again, looking at the harassment policy, tightening it up, and then looking at issues we want to identify and work towards next year, because proud to say that we're going to be hosting our third annual women's symposium this year in November again. And that's some of the work we're looking at doing in 2023, including working with the service to be able to provide free feminine hygiene products to all of our districts and HQ for some of our members who may require them, and sometimes, as you know, in a bind given our length of our shifts. So that's something that has been very appreciative. So thanks again for that. And we're looking at multiple social organizations to bring our members together. And one of the things that is in full swing that we're going to be rolling out, we're in the logistics planning, and that's to be able to offer a clothing donation and sale. So we're going to clean out our closets. We're going to pool everything together, and then we're going to put all of our personal items up for sale. Not sure who's going to want to buy some of mine, but I'm going to try. And then whatever we don't sell, we will donate back to a local women's shelter or a charity that's been identified that can benefit from not only our items, but the funds that we raise through that. And of course, that'll be a social opportunity for us to gather. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing the Women's Symposium again. And as I said in the beginning, I've been part of planning that and want to extend my heartfelt thanks for your genuine support and your financial support in order for us to make that the huge success that it is. So thank you very, very much.
Great. Thanks, Erin. So maybe I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'm not sure if there's any questions, but I did want to reiterate what Erin had spoke about and some of the others. Just, I wanted to thank the board and members of our senior leadership team and the chief and deputies for the ongoing support, especially as it relates to the internal support network, but more so our equity, diversity, and inclusion office as a whole, because we can't do this work without the support. And I think these internal support networks play such a critical role in everything that we do through their perspectives and lived experiences, whether it's, recruitment, whether it's training, education, outreach. So they're an important piece, and we're able to kind of build, or I guess we look forward to kind of building on the work that we've already done. So I guess we'll open up for questions. I'm not really sure if that was the plan. So.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that presentation. That was truly inspirational. The diversity of actual networks that have been created and are serving our diverse communities within the service are truly inspiring and impressive. So thank you for your hard work. Thank you for the presentations today. You've also inspired, speaking of inspiration, a number of questions. And we're going to start out, first of all, with our board member, Kurt Allen, who has a question.
I don't think I don't think what I'm going to say is as much a question as it is a comment. Mr. Chair, I think you hit it when you said inspirational. I mean, this is leadership at its best. And, you know, there are a lot of organizations that could take a lesson from what's happening here, sadly. But I want to thank everyone that's involved in this initiative. I happen to have spent some time in a police organization, and I know that it takes leadership from the top to create the environment where these kind of things can happen and be nurtured. And so, you know, and thanks to everyone that's involved in the program itself, because it takes leadership to get involved and to do what you're trying to do. And thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Kurt. Next up is Ingrid Hahn.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo the sentiments of my board colleague, Kurt, and we certainly appreciate the work that's being done in all of the areas. I've had the pleasure of meeting some of you. I've not met all of you, but when I see you in your specific support networks, I think it's admirable in terms of what's being accomplished through these lived experiences. And the question that I have, it ties in directly with a subject that we have later on the agenda, and it's specifically the hate-related occurrences. And the question I have is, has that element of crime, has that entered your support networks? And is it an issue that you are now dealing with? Has it increased, or is it something of concern in the networks?
Thank you, Ingrid. Who's going to answer that?
I can jump in and answer that, and maybe members of the team might want to add any top up, but absolutely, it's a consideration for sure. And you know, we've seen a little bit of an increase in reported hate incidents across the region year from year, no different than we've seen in 2022. And what these internal support networks do is they allow us, again, to take more of a strategic approach to how we're going to respond to them. Because, you know, as a policing organization and as a sector, we do a really good job at actually responding to these and investigating them. But where we can always do better is at finding opportunities to support those communities that are impacted. Because hate incidents are unique, unlike maybe, you know, a stolen vehicle or a bike, not to minimize that just impacts one family or one individual. The ripple effect of these incidents, you know, those that happen locally or not locally, we can see across the region. So whether it's connecting with communities through education and outreach and having those conversations, whether it's guiding the development of new processes, you know, in terms of our response to hate, these internal support networks drive that for us. And it's the perspective and lived experiences that ensure that when we're providing that follow-up and support, we're doing it the right way.
Appreciate that, Ryan. And it's just startling when we look at the statistics over a 10-year period, how it has risen in that span of time, almost double. So we appreciate the work that's being done through the ISN in addressing those concerns. Thank you.
Those are great comments. Thank you, Ingrid. Navneet Sakhan's next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to, I guess I wish to applaud the ISN community and all of the network. Great work done, and I think the board would support any further work that you need to do to excel. And I think I just wanted to mention, Aaron, if you have any need for clothing, I've got lots of it in my closet, definitely. But I do applaud the entire group for the efforts that you've taken. And I think I don't think the board would hesitate to support any work that you would need to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nav. Well said. Chief Tanner.
Thank you. I just want to add a comment, and it is how proud and thankful I am for each of our ISNs for the work that you do, for the individual members and the individuals that appeared here today to speak about the ISNs. They truly make us stronger and better. So thank you so much for what you do in those networks, and also Sergeant Smith and your team, incredible job always, and so proud of you guys as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Any further comments or questions from the board? Okay, if not, on behalf of the board, I want to once again thank you for the work that you're doing and the work that you're going to do. We are extraordinarily proud of all of your efforts. We as a board are just generally incredibly proud of our service overall, but I mean, this is one of these shining moments that we can really applaud the work that's being done to make it a great place to work. And we're just so thankful for that. I also want to make a comment that to all of the ISNs and their leaders and Ryan and his team, but I also want to thank the senior executive of the police service for making this possible. I mean, leadership starts at the top, and we appreciate the fact that our chief, our deputies, our inspectors, and everybody on down the line have facilitated and made these sorts of opportunities available. And so thank you to everybody for your yeoman's efforts in this regard. We look forward to lots of positive feedback and updates coming forward. And as my colleagues expressed, if you require assistance, or just good old moral support, or maybe even clothes, feel free to talk to your board. We're certainly willing and anxious to help. So with that, I want to thank you once again. Members of the board, I look for a motion to receive today's presentation. Thank you, Ingrid, seconded by Kurt. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you to those of you who will be departing the meeting. You're certainly welcome to stay, but if you have other work to do, we understand, and have a great rest of your day, and be safe on the roads, folks. Moving on to our next portion of the agenda is our consent agenda. We only have one item on the consent agenda today, and that's the semi-annual board governance expenditure report. Members of the board, does anybody wish to separate that, or are we prepared to approve the report? I'm not seeing any separations. Can I get a motion to approve the recommendation contained in the report? Thank you, Nav, seconded by Clark. Thank you. Any further comments, questions? All in favor? Thank you. That's carried. Moving to our discussion items, we have a number on the agenda this morning. First is 4.1, which is the financial report, full year fiscal for 2022. Are there any comments required from staff on this before I go to the board? Or is it sufficiently self-explanatory?
Through the chair, I think it's self-explanatory. We have a very healthy positive variance brought about mainly through staff vacancies. We're working to fill those. The board will see in a separate report later on this morning that some of those have been filled. And we plan to bring to the board a quarterly report. Every time we do the quarterly financial update and the human resources report as to where our vacancies are, the status of filling those. So we're trying to fill them, but it is a very positive variance, which will help us when it comes to some of our capital projects as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions or comments on this report? Nav, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on the professional services. Is there someone who can elaborate on why we have about 53.7% unfavorable?
Probably Paul, you're best positioned to do that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for the question, Ms. Sekon. The professional services category includes a multitude of areas. It includes our legal fees or legal services, the cost for external consultants, the cost for professional services to backfill for people. So the majority of the variance in there is based on some increased legal fees that we had this year, which we can discuss in the confidential agenda. And also a number of consulting assignments or professional services assignments to backfill for positions primarily in IT to support programs and to support vacancies in IT.
And Nav, anything further from you?
No, thank you. I think I'm going to follow up in the confidential agenda, meeting the The concern was, I think I'd like to see some more transparency around the numbers within our, I guess, during our meeting. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Nav. Further comments or questions? Can I get a motion on this matter, please? Thank you, Kurt, seconded by. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. 4.2 is the purchasing activity report for July 2022 through December 2022. Comments or questions on this?
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Kurt. I'll come back to you, or I'll take your motion, but I'm going to come to Ingrid first for a question.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. I found the report very informative and very detailed. I just couldn't understand what we had here in November for $223,938, a service with federal engineering, but I'm not sure what it is.
Thank you.
Bill, if you can speak to
I
that.
could refer that to Mr. Laverne as well, but we have a number of expenses, some specifically to do with next generation 911. Paul?
That's correct, Chief. I'll ask Bill to explain a little bit further, but it is related to an assignment related to Next Gen 911. Bill?
Thank you. And through the chair, this is an engagement with an engineering company who is working with us. Their team is fully engaged now to capture our requirements for next generation 911 technologies and to take us to the point where we can issue an RFP and do that in accordance with the deadlines that have been set by the CRTC for 2025. So these services are vital to us meeting these goals, and the team that they've brought to bear on this is absolutely phenomenal. So we're actually really excited about it, and it's moving along wonderfully now.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Ingrid. Would you mind seconding it for me since I have
Yes,
a
I will.
Thank you very much. Further comments or questions from the board? Can I get a vote, please? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to report 4.4. Sorry, 4.3. That's the statement, the board trust fund statement, community fund as at December 31st, 2022. Comments or questions from the board? Not seeing any. Nav, you have one?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair, I'll just move.
Okay, I do have one quick question, if you don't mind, and then I'll
Okay.
take the motion in just a second. With respect to in the report, there's discretionary fund police services board for $1,000. Does anybody recall what that was? Deputy Wilkie, I think you presented this. Do you happen to know what that was?
What was it for, Paul?
Yeah, Mr. Noel, I'll have an answer for you in about 5 minutes, if you don't mind deferring for until I.
Sure, we'll
Call
move
up
on.
the Excel sheet.
Yeah, we'll move it on and come back to that in just a couple of minutes. I'll come back to it at the end of the discussion items. Item number 4.4, hate-related occurrences in 2022 summary. Chief, can you frame this for us, or do you have a member of your team to do that?
Well, through the chair, I'll start off by saying this is a high-level overview. There is an increase 2022 over 2021. Of course, we would prefer to see a decrease. We are also a growing regional municipality, particularly in Milton and elsewhere. We are becoming, thankfully, increasingly diverse. And hopefully members of our diverse community are also more comfortable coming forward to the police. Some of that perhaps through the work of the ISNs or through Ryan Smith and his team or others. So, I mean, it is up. It's down 1 in Halton Hills, which means next to nothing. But it is up, and it is something that we continue to monitor. We have cleared a number of those occurrences. They are very difficult in some instances because often, as board members may imagine, and you've probably seen spray painted types of graffiti graffiti such as a swastika on a playground, which is done overnight with no witnesses. So some of them are very difficult to solve, although we do solve a number of them, and I'm proud of the individual officers that do that. We certainly like to see a decrease. Society is forever changing. I think it's becoming less forgiving than it was many years ago. I hope we don't mirror things that we see in the United States, but often we're about 10 or 15 years behind the US. We need to stand for no hate, no discrimination anywhere in Halton. That's certainly what we do as a police service. You've seen that through many of our programs, the No Place for Hate, as an example for the board. But thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Any other comments from the staff team, or time for questions from the board? Okay, board members, I see Kurt's hand. Yes, sir.
I have a question. These incidents unfortunately seem to be on the rise, and it's not only Halton. And I'm just curious as to what knowledge the chief or you and your colleagues may have as to how the courts are viewing this and how they're dealing with these incidents. Because I think if the courts aren't taking them seriously, it doesn't help. Is there any comment in that regard?
Thank you, Mr. Allen, through the chair. I mean, certainly some of the hate crime specific crimes where we, for example, in the Burlington case, when there was some horrendous hate material spread in downtown Burlington, it's very difficult even to lay the charge, because under the current criminal code, we still need the approval of the Attorney General to do so. They're hesitant to do that at times, but they did, thankfully, in that case. And I think the board will remember that I had said publicly in that case, if they did not approve it, that should become an immediate issue. I do not think that the courts, anecdotally, I do not think they take it as seriously as they should, because the repercussions throughout the community are even greater than the individual victims. So I think there's a place for us, or for a board such as yourselves, or a police chief and deputies such as ourselves, to lobby on the importance of and the seriousness of these types of crimes. I think it is an issue. I think our courts often don't take a number of crimes serious enough. So I appreciate the question.
Heard anything further? I'm sorry, Kurt, anything further?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I muted myself again.
No problem.
I appreciate your comments, Chief. And particularly, I think this is a bigger problem than probably I understand it to be, but that's the reason why I asked the question. As we try to build our society to be a diverse society, I really think that the courts, have to stand behind that, and I'm not sure that's happening with the regularity that it should. And it doesn't help the police either, because the police are on the front line, being called to the events, conducting investigations, putting a lot of work and effort into it to try to move society forward in a broad sense. And without the support of the courts, it just makes it very complicated. And I appreciate the work that the service is doing in this regard. But to be successful and to make change, we need the support of the broader society, and the courts are part of that. Those are my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Nav, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a comment regarding, I guess, the incidents being relatively high in Oakville and Burlington. Do we have some sense of what's the rationale for some of that, Chief?
Through the chair, I don't believe so, Ms. Seacon. Burlington and Oakville are bigger communities. They're bigger cities. They're still bigger than Milton, despite Milton growing so quickly. So a good part of it is based on population size. The deputies and I were just discussing that very question just before this meeting. And that's what we were talking about. I don't know, Roger, Jeff, if you had any further comments. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, some of the incidents in Burlington and Oakville were a string of thefts of pride flags. So it's a theft that's related to that community. So that's what's bolstered those numbers in both those communities. And so it's still intolerable and still it impacts that community. And so we have approached it from a number of different angles to support that community and to address the offenders when identified. Thank you.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Nev?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to Lisa Kearns.
Thank you very much through the chair. So we absolutely understand that hate-related occurrences are a very serious issue and take it seriously. We want everyone to feel safe in their community. My question sits on page 4 of the report, which I'm glad you had mentioned, Deputy Chief Wilkie, around the LGBTQ2S+ community group. And I wanted to understand a little more about the difference between hate crime and the hate/bias incident, because those numbers between our Black and LGBTQ2S+ communities seem to be on the inverse, so 11 to 13. So how is that being addressed differently for those different groups that are being targeted?
Somebody going to take that question? Thank you, Deputy Wilkie.
So the reality is whether it's a criminal offense or a hate-based incident, we approach it the same way. We have connections in our communities. We do reach out. Ryan and the team are very proactive in that space. I'll take you to another page on that report, and that's our engagement with Dr. Barbara Perry. And the reality is we can do what our normal systems are, but engaging the community to help us understand how we can do better in that space is so important. And so in the coming probably next board report or board meeting or in April, we'll be able to provide an update on what that engagement looked like, because it was broader into the community and it helped form our response to hate-based incidents. So we're looking forward to sharing that with the board in a future meeting.
Thank you very much, Deputy. That's a great response. And then I think when that Future Forward report comes forward, will we see some benchmarking against other regions?
It's a great question. I don't know if we've actually included that in the scope of Dr. Perry's work. I mean, she is a renowned subject matter expert in that space, and she has provided us a bit of a report card, which I think is important. As much as we are doing well in this space, we can always do better. And I think comparatively, as Mr. Allen has pointed out, that this is a problem across all jurisdictions, and we need to, as a sector, drive change, awareness. And I think things like our No Hate in Halton campaign that launches on March 20th, which you're all invited to, is a great way to again inform our members of our citizens of clear pathways for reporting these types of incidents, and then giving them the assurance and confidence that we're going to do something about it. And I think that's another reason why you may see numbers go up. And as much as we can look at stats in a number of different ways, is we want people to feel confident that the police are going to do something about it and that there's a safe mechanism to do so. So that's all part of what Dr. Perry's report will be about. As for the comparison, or the environmental scan, I don't know if that is in scope. Ryan, do you have any comments on that piece?
Dr. Perry is a national recognized leader in hate crime and right-wing extremism. So she has looked at some of the stats really across the whole country. The challenge with benchmarking other regions is that the makeup and look or demographics of other regions are very different. And not only just the demographics, urban, rural areas, populations concentrated in one area, even police services response to these types of incidents and public confidence in reporting, because reporting is the only way that we actually capture this data. We know that, you know, hate crimes and hate incidents are extremely underreported. So this report is actually reflected on the information that comes to police. And there's communities in different regions where they aren't comfortable reporting it to police, and that can actually skew some of the data of what it looks like. So it's challenging to actually benchmark against other regions for a variety of reasons, really because they're completely different. I hope that kind of provides some clarity.
That's an excellent answer, and sometimes not reporting is the answer on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Lisa. Nav, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to address the chief's comments regarding lobbying, I think I want to make sure that we have that as an action for the board to sit down with the chief to look at addressing this issue. In order to curb it more significantly than what we are being able to do it in the past.
Chief, you have a comment?
And perhaps in relation to Ms. Secon's comment, maybe a joint correspondence to the Attorney General and our Solicitor General, voicing both the concern of the board and the concern of the senior executive team here going forward together. The more often we put this on the tables of those people, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that suggestion. Now we should definitely follow up on that. I've made note of that. I'm sure that Graham can make note of it as well, and we can move forward in that fashion. I do have a question. I'm curious if I mean, certainly there's likely a significant underreporting of hate related incidents due to, you know, fears about repercussions, reprisals, etc. I'm wondering, do we provide the opportunity, you know, on the heels of the excellent presentation on ISN networks, are there opportunities for people from identifiable communities to be able to report to file the reports with officers? And I know that'd be difficult based on the scheduling, but is there opportunities for people that are subject of these sorts of crimes to report to somebody of a similar culture? Because that might create a more comfortable conversation. Is that something that we offer?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, that would be very difficult on a 24/7 basis. I certainly would not want to specifically target our ISNs in any way to responding to these things, other than certainly the education part. I think what we can do, and I hope we do, is when an officer attends a scene or is dealing with a potential victim of one of these situations, if they sense a level of discomfort or anything else, then there are certainly we have diversity amongst our officers where we could have a different officer follow up. But for the original occurrence, it would be very difficult.
Yeah, I understand that. And as I was saying that, I just based on the way scheduling works, how incredibly difficult it would be. I didn't mean for the ISNs to become involved. I was saying on the heels of that conversation, just recognizing the diversity that we do have in the service and the opportunity that may exist if scheduling weren't so challenging. But is that well known within the service that if there was to be a challenging situation that an individual officer should circle back to see if if that kind of connection is available?
Ryan, I see your hand up for that.
Oh,
Maybe.
I'm sorry, Ryan. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so we have explored opportunities to actually, you know, break down many barriers above the one that you speak of in terms of reporting, because you're absolutely right. Underreporting is a huge issue, not here in Halton, across the country, North America and or otherwise. So what we'll often do, or what we always actually do, is myself or my designate or someone from our office reaches out to every victim or impacted community who's been targeted by an act of hate and answer any questions that they have, provide point of contact that they can reach out to, and then make referrals to appropriate community agencies. Those that we work with as a police service may include members of our internal support network, although it hasn't happened, or through our victim services unit. So just to help support those individuals after the fact, because again, you know, as a police service, we do a great job at responding to these things and investigating them and holding people accountable when we can. But we can always do a better job at eliminating those barriers to reporting and supporting those people impacted. So one of the things that will come out of Dr. Perry's work is she's done pretty extensive in-depth community consultations, specifically speaking to where are the barriers to reporting, separate from us as a policing organization asking those questions, which in itself is an additional barrier. So I look forward to getting that report and then actually actioning those things to remove those barriers or work towards removing those barriers.
I hope that when that report comes in, you'll come back to the board to, I guess, summarize it for us and give us an opportunity to understand next steps. Thank you for your comment about referrals to external agencies, because I was going to ask that question. I remember years ago, maybe only a couple of years ago, when we were talking about youth mental health, we talked about having a brochure or some sort of tangible document we could hand to somebody and say, after the incident, these are some opportunities to follow up. And then there's also that referral process. I think that's, in my opinion, that's critical, because it's that ability to be able to have somebody they can speak to. Not everybody's connected to community. Some people live pretty isolated lives just amongst their families, and it's awesome to have that ability to be able to refer to a third party, whether it's a faith organization or a cultural group or whatever else, that may be able to provide that third party support to wrap around that individual that's been subject to that attack. I've had some connection with one particular cultural group in town that works very hard to make sure that they make that service available to members of their community, and I think that that's so critical. So thank you for your hard work on this, and look forward to further follow-up when that report comes in. We have another comment. Oh, sorry, I have a question from a board member, Kurt, and then we'll go to Deputy Wilkie.
I just wanted to encourage the board to maybe broaden the scope of who we might want to send a letter to, and to give that some thought. It's next to impossible to build an inclusive society when we have to jump through hoops to do the right things to take action against perpetrators. And I think Mr. Chair, you may have made the comment, the underreporting, I think, in this area is huge. Probably better today than it was, but I still believe it's huge. And so I think this board should broaden the scope of the number of important offices, political offices, that we send a letter to. Thank you.
Agree. Let's make sure we get that on the agenda and do some work towards crafting something and then identifying who we want to communicate that with. That external advocacy is a very important aspect of what we do. Deputy Wilkie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Our work with Dr. Perry is obviously very important about transparency, accountability to our community. I guess the question I have for the board is, beyond that report that we'll obviously submit to the board, I think the important part of that is the dialogue after. So we could easily arrange for Dr. Perry to come and present the findings or have a conversation, if you'd be open to that, and we can arrange that between now and when that report's available.
Certainly, I for one would be in favor of that. I think I see a few nodding heads. Yeah, I think that would be certainly something that'd be very worthwhile, and something that we would deeply appreciate. So yeah, let's proceed in that way. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you. We're on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any further comments on this particular report? I'll look for a motion, please. Mover, please. Thank you, Kurt. Seconded by. Thank you, Nav. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we are moving along from 4.4 to 4.5. That's donations to the service as of December 31st, 2022. Mr. Laverne, you have a question or comment?
Comment, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Going back to the board trust fund, your question regarding the
thank you.
Discretionary fund. There was a check issued in September based on a board motion to support Savvis with an additional $1,000 for Take Back the Night.
Okay. Thank you for that.
No worries.
Can I get I'm just wondering if in the future, can we identify, maybe put tabs when you list on the report, the discretionary expenditures, if you could just maybe summarize who they were to? Thank you very
Certainly,
much.
will do.
Can I get a motion to go back and approve that report, please?
It was moved by Ms. Secon. I don't think there was a seconder.
Oh, thank you, Nav. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, this time we really are, and appreciate that, Mr. Laverne, appreciate the update. We really are going now to 4.5, and that is the donations to service. Comments or questions? Motion to approve. Thank you, Ingrid. Seconded by Kurt. Thank you. All in favor? That's carried, or I guess motion to receive. 4.6, collection of identifying information on certain circumstances. You have your report, Chief. Is there any framing of this that you'd like to do?
Yes, through the chair. Really, this is a non-issue for us here in Halton. The deputies and I were speaking about this just before the meeting today as well. It really goes back to the carding practice that many police services did years ago, and Justice Tulloch became involved in the review of contact cards. The perhaps unnecessary or unwarranted stopping of different individuals, and that was an issue in a variety of services. Justice Tulloch also became a friend of the Halton Regional Police and held us out as an example of doing things differently. And frankly, I think it was back in 2017, we moved away from contact cards before the review by Justice Tulloch and moved to a more informative and fulsome occurrence reporting system. So it's no surprise that we don't do this. Our practices here are much different. So other than seeing if we ever had one, I think in the past 2 or 3 years, it's all been 0 or maybe 1 or 2 years ago. It'd be very rare where we would have to use this practice.
Thanks, Chief. Comments or questions? I just want to note there's a whole lot of zeros in that report, so that's that's a good thing. Can I get a mover then if there's no questions? Thank you, Kurt. Seconded by? Thank you, Ingrid. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We're moving on to item number 4.7. That's the capital projects program status. I'm sorry, Ingrid, you had a question on this item?
On this one, on the capital projects.
Okay, before we do that, is Chief, does anybody wish to frame this one, or is report self-explanatory in your opinion?
I'm hoping it's self-explanatory. It's closing off a couple of accounts where the projects are done, so that money returns to the reserves, and then lays out some of the capital, including and up to our North End facility. And certainly Mr. Laverne could answer any technical questions in that area.
Perfect, thank you. Well, we have one question. We'll see if it's technical or not. Ingrid, you have the floor.
Yeah, it is a technical question. When I look at this item for our HRIS, I recall our discussion in December. And in December, we approved the 1.3 million. And my question is, how do we arrive at an unspent balance of 1.2 million in July when we approved it in December?
Mr. Laverne, do you have a response for that? Paul, are you with us?
I'm guessing perhaps he stepped away from the screen for a minute. I know Tracy and her team have ongoing work going on in relation to the HRIS system, and sometimes through RFP process and otherwise, it takes quite a while to actually spend the money that has been approved by the board. But the specific question on the actual numbers, I see I stalled just long enough for Paul.
There he is.
Thank
That
you.
was, well, good dancing, Chief.
But I did miss the beginning of the question, Ms. Hand, sorry.
So what I'm asking, I recall our discussion in December when we approved the HRIS review at 1.3 million. And when I look at this report, I see the unspent balance as of July 1, 22 at 1.2 million. So the question is, how can we be at 1.2 million in July when we only approved it in December?
The approval in December wouldn't have made it into the capital budgets until we get into the 2023 capital cycle. So the 1.2 million balance remaining represents what was previously approved in the capital budgets, less what we spent on consulting.
So that's a different 1.3 million that I see on this report.
The 1.3, sorry, which line are you referring to?
HRIS.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it here.
Yeah, under other projects.
Yep, I'm just trying to get down to the line. Okay, so when we first approved the budget, we approved $300,000 for consulting. And then we put in the capital budget $1 million for the actual product that we were going to buy. We spent 100,000 of the 300 for consulting, leaving 1.2 million in for both the consulting and the rest of the product. Okay, so that's what remains in the capital account until we add more capital to it. And at the moment, we're just opening up the RFP submissions from the proponents to assess them. We don't know yet what the expected cost of the application, whether it's an on-premises application or a cloud-based application, will be. But in December, when we brought the report, I think we said it may be up to a certain amount.
So the 1.3 that I see here, is that the 1.3 we approved in December?
No.
It's a different amount. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. So we'll see the 1.3 in 23.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank
Ingrid.
you.
Further
No.
comments? Sorry.
That's good.
Further comments or questions? Okay, the recommended motion is the approval of the closure of the following capital accounts, and it lists a number of accounts. Can I get a motion to approve the report, please? Thank you, Ingrid. Seconded by? Thank you, Kurt. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we are moving on to 4.8, the digital evidence management system.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll kick it off, and I think I will pass it on to Deputy Chief Wilkie. But as the board surely imagines, the digital world has changed so much in the past 10 or 20 years. So much of our evidence now is digital photographs, video evidence of actual crime scenes in progress. The need to be able to share that digital information directly and in a more easy manner with Crown attorneys for court purposes and for disclosure purposes. So on the specifics, Roger has been involved quite a bit with our strategic management office and others. So over to you, Raj.
Thank you, Chief. So basically, the Ministry, the Solicitor General has gone to RFP to partner with Axon, a leading agency with regards to digital evidence management. And this initiative is basically a way to provide some congruency and consistency across the province to better manage and share digital evidence, not only amongst police services, but also with disclosure pieces that are required with MAG. There's approximately 19 other services right now that are in this process of signing on with the MOU. Part of our, I guess, delay has been engaging our own Crown's office to determine their readiness for this. And we're at the point now where we're ready to move forward in lockstep with our Crown's office. It's also going to be a great way for us to understand how to move forward best as an organization as we have about $250,000 set aside for consultancy and to explore what our own digital evidence management process is going to be here. Historically, we have invested in on-premise, like a home-baked solution, and we are now looking to see what other products and I guess efficiencies are available to us. So this is a great step for many different reasons to move us forward in the DEM space. So there's no cost to the board for this. We just wanted to bring this forward as an MOU to sign on for your awareness, and I think it will create some great efficiencies for our organization and for our sector.
Thank you, Deputy. We have a question from Kurt Allen.
Yeah, it's more a comment, Mr. Chair. You know, with experts estimating that the third largest global economy is the proceeds of cybercrime, I'm very pleased to see the service, you know, advancing its own capability. I wish other police services were doing the same thing. Regrettably, I believe at this time that's probably not the case. So I'm very happy to see the service trying to advance its tools to make an impact on this important area. I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Kurt. Would you mind giving me the motion to approve then, please?
I'd be more than happy to.
Thank you. So are there further questions? I just have one. I'm going to first of all ask for a seconder, then I'm going to ask my question. Can I get a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Ingrid. My question is on the, so this is central storage of data, correct?
It's a way for us to manage our own data and also share it with for our disclosure pieces with our Crown's office, and also to be able to share it amongst other services for investigative purposes.
No, I understand that piece. I'm talking the technical side of it. Where's the data stored?
Bill, do you want to take that one?
Certainly, Mr. Chair, the data is cloud-based, centrally stored. It's security-wise all been approved as specified in the requirements of the RFP that was issued by the Solicitor General. And so we're satisfied with that level of security and with mechanisms that have been put in place for this program for these purposes.
So presumably it's if it's been approved, it's stored within the country, I would assume, as opposed to Axum's storage facilities in the United States.
It is, and the requirements around that are loosening up as well, but it is stored within Canada in this case.
Yeah. Okay. And with respect to the agreements, do they provide extraordinarily clear rights of access to this data and ownership of the data?
Yes, they do. We own the data, and it is there for the purposes in this phase of moving the data to the Crowns for their further disclosure. And so as we move forward in the remaining phases of this, as Deputy Wilkie outlined, we'll be looking at our own needs for managing the masses and masses of data that we have beyond what we wish to disclose.
Okay. And what is the retention policy around this sorts of data digitally?
We have retention policies in place already for data, depending on the type of crime, would determine, and with appeal times and things like that, there's kind of a waterfall kind of process to be followed to determine that. This would also follow that. It would be purged from there, but this also is not the only record of this data. We will have it here as well and use this for disclosure. So we don't have to worry about losing it, and we can be in control of how long it is there for as well, sir.
Terrific. Thank you very much. So the item's been, the approval's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 4.9, which is a compliance review of board policies and service procedures. I think this is a report from Deputy Wilkie, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just taking the time to, yes, Deputy Wilkie sent this off. Deputy Wilkie, do you have any comments? Or I see Deputy Hill's hand up. Oh, sorry, I see several hands up. So
if you don't mind, sir, if we could jump back to the IRS, HRS question again, Paul would like to answer that, please.
Oh,
Before
I'm
we
sorry.
go.
Okay, sure.
I have a clarifying comment, Ms. Han. So the board report in December is the report that we bring to the board at the initiation of large capital projects and solicit the board's approval to actually go ahead and move forward. So at the time we had the $1.3 million in the capital budget, we were informing the board that we are now moving into the next stages to do the RFP. So we don't know until we open up all those envelopes at the end of the RFP process, whether or not the 1.2 remaining will be sufficient to buy the HRIS system. So the December approval to the board or by the board was to proceed using our logic and our procurement methodologies. Until we open the envelopes, we won't know if that's good enough. We may need to come back to the board later on this year and say the HRIS system is going to be more expensive, less expensive. I would imagine more on the more expensive side, and whether or not it's actually going to be capital or operating budget. We don't know that answer yet. So there isn't a new $1.3 million going into the 2023 capital. The December report was to approve the organization continuing forward with the procurement process for HRIS.
I shall change my notes. Thank you.
I'm getting too much.
Thank you for that explanation.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
So are we now fully caught up on previous items? Great. Okay.
Well, 4.9 is not done yet.
No, I know. We're just getting into that. So 4.9 report from Deputy Wilkie. Deputy Wilkie, do you want to provide some background on this?
Sure, thank you. And through the chair, the board passed a resolution in January for us to compare new board policies with ours for congruence, compliance with training, and so forth. Immediately after that meeting, I connected with our strategic management office that oversees our policy team. And for the last 4 weeks, they've been hard at work. They've compared the 111 board policies with our 308 policies and the 710 forms that we have internally as an organization. What we found was 32 different policies where we can make minor tweaks, and that's basically to reference the new policy and to ensure congruence in some language pieces, but very minor in detail. The other part of the analysis was to ensure that our training was in lockstep with what the board's policies were, and we found those to be in compliance as well. We have gone offline with our chief governance officer to identify some areas for board policy refreshment in terms of language and gender neutral language, which is appropriate. And I think it's been a great exercise. What you'll see within the report, I think it's important for the board to understand our commitment to policy development and management. And what we were able to do is just ensure that there's an ongoing process that when new legislation or a new board direction is there, in a timely fashion, this is presented to our policy team, and that assessment and potential changes are undertaken right away. At this juncture, as of yesterday, the update is that of the 32 impacted policies, 60% of the work has been done. The other 40% is now with commander or director approval, because we just don't let the policy team create that change and it just sits there. It goes through a process of team engagement to understand opportunities and eventual sign off by either the deputies or the chief for the respective policies. So we're very confident that the board policies align. Our services policies align with the board and accuracy standards. And frankly, for many years, we have been a leader in the province when it comes to policy development and management. And that's because of some of the people that we've had in that role. Recently retired policy unit member Carrie Overholt is basically a guru in the province of Ontario, and she was actually consulted with this exercise as well to ensure that we were going to that high standard of doing this assessment for the board.
Great. Thank you, Deputy. Before I go to further comments, I just wanted to tap Fred's shoulder here. Fred, do you have any comments on this or I guess any feedback?
Well, whenever you do something like a compliance audit, there's different levels that you can go down. And in fact, the ministry's inspection program of police services and boards is much like that. You know, the broadest level is basically titles, checking that the titles are aligned, and then you go down a level, and then it's all the detailed wordings, which is, I believe, is what Roger and his team have done. And then if there were some specific high risk areas, the deeper level is, well, how's that translating to action on the ground? And there's various different levels, and it's always a question of how much time is available for the audit, how much is effort is it going to take, and what's the disruption in the process. So given, the board asked the question very broadly in January, and within 4 weeks they've turned this out, I think that's quite commendable. In the future, if there were some high risk areas, which is exactly how the province does it, there's high risk areas the board wanted to check. You could either do that by our own policies of the 111 or the 5 main bylaws, or you've got the listing of the 400 service policies. Then there could be a more detailed one on a specific area if that's something the board was interested in. And finally, I very much appreciated the initiative to make some wordsmithing comments on our own policies. So that's very helpful for me to get the right language, and that'll be coming forth to the board in due time. That's sort of secretarial updates.
Okay. Thanks, Fred. Chief Tanner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I wanted to thank Roger for sharing all of our policies, the headings of all of them, to really show each of the board members the breadth of what these policies cover, and the detail within each one. I think it's commendable for those policy writers and analysts who have put these together. We are very confident that they have always met the standards of the province when we've had the external inspections. And I think, it's one thing for the deputies or I to say our people do a good job here. That's one thing, but we have Dwayne Sprague here with us today who has the history of some of the inspections of this police service in relation to policies. The Solicitor General's office and Dwayne and others have held some of our policies up to be the example to other services. Devon Clunas, when he was in the Inspector General position, used some of our policies as well as the director of OIPRD. So there's these external organizations and individuals who see the very detailed and positive nature of our policies. So I'm not meaning to put Dwayne on the spot here, but certainly the board could hear from him as well, not just us.
Okay, well, let's, if Dwayne wants to, Dwayne, did you have any comment on that before I go to the next question?
Very briefly through the board chair, absolutely. I concur with what the chief's saying. The ministry has done numerous inspections over the years on all municipal police services, obviously including Halton. And, I think, through that work, it's shown the good, in-house policies and procedures that Halton has in place. So I'll leave it at that.
Can I just ask, Dwayne, that your presence here, are you filling in for David, or have they made yet another change?
No, no, I was saying to the chief earlier on, some ways I wish I'd kept zone 4 and I've got 5 right now, but I wish in some ways I would stayed with you folks in 4. But no, I'm just filling in for Dave. I'm Dave's backup. So Dave's kind of doing double duty elsewhere today. So he asked me to fill in.
Yeah, because we just saw him yesterday at the Zone 4 meeting, and I'm just wondering, was there a change made since the last 24 hours? Okay. Well, it's nice to see you. Nice to see you, Dwayne. Thanks for being here today. Nav, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you for that work at Roger. I think it is commendable. I do want to just inquire about whether your internal policy now has a requirement to ensure that the service policies are congruent with the board policies.
Yes, through the chair, that is specifically listed in our policy attached in SMO 001. That provides a very good overview of how we commit to the policy development and management. We do have a practice of reviewing every policy within a 3-year cycle. That does not preclude us from bringing forward any review based upon legislative requirements, changes, direction from the board, or just emerging trends or opportunities that we see to enhance the way we do business. So yes, that is specifically listed in our policy and where we adhere to that. So thank you.
Okay. I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Yes.
So in terms of, I did read that policy a little bit and scanned it. I'm just wondering if what kind of measures are there included or involved with actual training to those policies within the service? How is that accomplished?
So if there is any type of policy or operational piece that requires a training standard, we have that from our ACFE standards, as well as our own skills and training manual within the service, which is fairly robust. We could certainly attach that or bring that to the board's attention through another submission. But it's an ongoing scan and analysis for how we need to ensure that we're up to a certain training standard. That's built into our policy as well, and it's woven through everything that we do in the training bureau. So they are huge stakeholders, an important voice at the table as we develop and roll out policy to ensure that we are not only compliant, but we exceed and those standards at a provincial level.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Nav. Fred, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to mention also that as a matter of a routine, whenever the board adopts a new policy or a policy revision, Graham sends a copy to the clerk in the SMO. So who's relatively new. We just started this last year, so that we make sure that they've got a copy. And if there's something of a big strategic thing, we also send it to the chief and the deputy, so they have a copy of it, the same thing that was adopted. As you know, it's difficult to print that off of Dillatrust off the portal. So we make sure that there's a clean PDF copy that goes to the people that need to action things right away.
Thank you, Fred. Further comments or questions? Can I get a motion to receive this item, please? Thank you, Ingrid, seconded by Nav. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, members of the board, we have, and just for those who are paying attention that may have tuned in late, 4.10 has been withdrawn from the agenda for today and may or may not appear in a future agenda. But we are at the 10:30 point, almost 10:30 point, and as per our discussion at our last board meeting, we've built in automatic breaks for everybody's health and well-being. So it is now 10:30. I am recessing the meeting for 10 minutes for our planned 10:30 break, and we'll see you back at 10:40. We are going to reconvene momentarily. If everybody can, this is your 1 minute warning, I guess. Please return to your computers and turn your cameras on, and let's get back to business here. Okay, I am reconvening our meeting. Thank you for allowing us to have that 10-minute break. That was, I think, a good practice. I can't recall who suggested that last board meeting, but I think I'm very happy that we've allowed for that automatic break process. So up next on the agenda is operational verbal updates, and we'll go to Chief Tanner first. Okay, Chief's not there yet. So will deputies, do you have operational verbal updates for us? Chief Wilkie, or Deputy Chief Wilkie.
Just a reminder for the board.
Motion there.
Almost. Just a reminder for the board, an invitation will be going out through Kimberly for you to attend the No Hate in Halton launch on March 20th. And obviously, you know, as per our conversation in the public session on that report, it's an important initiative, and we thank the board for all your support in that space. There's also the Ontario Police College March Past, which is late March. I believe it's on the board meeting date, so we'll find some representation for that, but we'll get those dates to you through Kimberly. And everything else I have is for the confidential session. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Deputy Hill?
No, sir.
Nope. Can anybody poke the chief? He may be wandering back to his office now. I'm not sure, but just in case he has something. Thanks, Deputy. Roger left, but Deputy Hill, do you know what the what is the police college March Past? What is that? Do you know? Or am I putting you on the spot?
Always ready, sir. I have a chock-a-block of answers.
Ah, there it is.
I believe it's actually the next one is actually one of board day. I believe it's actually March 30th. So I'm gonna have to take a look at that.
Okay. Is it I assume it's in Elmer.
Correct, sir.
Okay, okay.
The chief was so excited to get to confidentially flip to that Zoom portion. So he's coming back to public.
Let's give him a second to return. So many Zoom links, one meeting. How can there be so many Zoom links for one simple meeting? My goodness.
When you're on Zoom, none of the meetings are simple, are they?
That's true. Yeah. Oh, there he is. Hello, Chief. Chief?
My apologies. I was trying to sign into the in-camera meeting ahead of time.
No problem. No problem. So we just had a long presentation from both of the deputies. No, I'm just kidding. Do you have anything for operational verbal updates?
Have the deputies done theirs already?
We got a couple updates from Deputy Wilkie.
Okay, and no, the only one that I have, and it's too early to give details on. We had a major drug investigation seizure last night. That will be the subject of a larger media release to say a little bit more, perhaps in camera.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board, any questions for the executive team on verbal updates today? I'm sorry, Chief.
Yeah, sorry. The only other thing, I think we covered off one of the action items with the ISN presentation.
Yes, we'll come to that in a second, and we will happily strike that from the outstanding issues report. Any questions, members of the board? Seeing none, let's move on, and we'll move to that very thing, and that is the Action Registry Public section. Fred, can you walk us through that, please?
Yes, sir. So the first item is the complaint management presentation, which has been moved at management's request to next month. The second item is the use of force discussion. Management's asking that that be moved to October in order to allow for a report from the Solicitor General to be included in that, and that's not expected until that time. Then we have some things going on in May. The community fund policy was referred by you, sir, till next month, till March. The policy compliance audit was presented earlier by Roger today, so that's done. The next item was pulled by you, sir, and Andrew Terrell of the Canadian Caribbean Association of Halton is scheduled to speak to the board in March. That's all the public action registry items.
Thank you. So we'll strike the Your TV item off of the action registry since we're withdrawing that. I do want to just quick comment that I'm looking forward to hearing from Andrew on the CCH presentation. I'm sure he's going to have lots of updates to bring us from Black History Month, which has been a chock-a-block with activities and opportunities for engagement in the community. I think every day there's been another activity in Halton, and I want to send my congratulations to CCH, Andrew and his team for what has been a tremendous Black History Month this year. So thank you for that, Fred. So can somebody move the action registry, receive the action registry with that item for Your TV deleted? Thank you, Kurt. Seconded by Ingrid. Thank you very much. Sorry, Nav. I saw Nav's hand, not Ingrid's. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Members of the board, do you have any other new business to bring before the board in public session today? I'm not seeing any members of the executive team. Any further new business to bring before the board in public session today? I'm not seeing anything. So members of the board, we need a motion to move into closed session. Can I get that, please? Thank you, Nav. Seconded by Ingrid. All in favor? That's carried. So to those of you who may be watching from the general public, we want to thank you for your interest and time in monitoring your police board and their activities. We are moving to a closed session, so that will not be televised on YouTube. We're dealing with confidential items that are not appropriate to be discussed in a public forum. So with that, I will say once again, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you next month. And as always, if you have any questions or comments or feedback, please make sure that you connect with us. We're always anxious to hear from members of the community. You can find more information about contacting us on our website at www.haltonpoliceboard.ca. You can certainly reach out through one of the social media channels, and you can always send an email to me at chair@haltonpoliceboard.ca. So thank you very much for your time and attendance. To those members of the team who are moving on with their days, thank you for being with us today, and we will see everybody on yet another Zoom link for our confidential session. Thanks, everybody.